So friends, when we say that GST is really good concept brought to the economy, it helps the industry, or it will help the industry. How? It's very true that GST has simplified the procedure, reduce the cost. So benefits of GST which we have adopted. Number one, it's a PAN based registration for every business house. So means generally we have seen that PAN number is used for income tax purposes, but we have linked both the taxes together. We have linked the taxes, means PAN based registration number under GST means now Ministry of Finance has access to income tax transactions as well as GST transactions, so that evasion of taxes can be reduced. Set of taxes will be available to large extent, yes, because now state government and central government both are charging GST on the same transaction. So setting off of taxes paid on my procurement will be easier one as compared to previous regime. Already explained, taxes have been subsumed in GST. It has simplified the tax procedure, tax system. Same thing is for state taxes. In previous regime, interstate transaction, when we were paying CST, set of provisions were not available. For CST, what I have paid on my procurement, set off was not available, but in GST, it is available. So it has reduced your cost further. Cascading effects I have already explained you. Apart from that, there were some statutory forms to be used in VAT for different transactions. Means if you are exporting something, if you are selling something interstate, if you are transferring goods to your own branches, you are supposed to use Form C, Form H, Form F, and these forms were issued by the state governments only, and their printing, their stock availability was another issue. So these have been abolished, done away with the GST provisions. So there is no need of such forms, there is no concept of such forms under GST. So it has simplified the procedure and saved a lot of time of the industry and the business houses. In previous slides, I gave you one example where truck moves from Chennai to Delhi and reach Delhi after 30-35 days. And whenever it crosses any state boundary, they are supposed to get checked their documents and all, which wasted a lot of time. So under GST, all authorized barriers have been abolished. So there is no such checking. There are interceptors, but no such checkings on each and every state border. It has reduced traveling time of a truck from Chennai to Delhi to 25 days. The bigger and very good step and big achievement for logistic industry, as in logistic industry it has reduced a lot of cost. Further friends, filing of returns for both central and state government will be at par. Earlier in pre-GST regime, I told you that every state has its own tax laws, and under own tax laws they were having different procedures. In Maharashtra, return forms are different. In Tamil Nadu, return forms are different. In Karnataka, forms are different. In UP, forms are different. So each state has its own forms for their returns under VAT. And filing dates are also different. Means Punjab has a date of 7th of the next month, UP has 15th of the next month, West Bengal has a 15th, 16th of the next month, like this. But in GST, common return at same time and through IT, online, from anywhere you can file. So a company having business in 29 states or union territories, they were supposed to keep state-wise consultants, state-wise employees. But in GST, it has reduced that such type of cost. Now sitting in head office, company can compliance everything under GST. Having a registration number, filing your monthly, quarterly, annual returns, filing reply to the notices issued by the department. Everything is online. You need not to go to state-wise for appearing or such type of things. Things are made so easy. That's why compliance cost has come down drastically and in better and effective way. So this way GST has impacted our economy, given up money in the hands of consumer, save the working capital of the industry, reduce the financial cost of the industry, reduce the travel time for the logistic industry. Strategic management has played its role under GST. Definitely, and I am very helpful that this step is towards to make India once again Vishwa Guru by having 33% or more contribution to the world economy. Perhaps this may be the small step towards that. Friends, in this part of my presentation of this session, as I explained you earlier also, we will talking about concept of supply. Because GST is applicable on supply of goods and services. GST is not applicable on manufacturing of goods. GST is not applicable on supply of services only. If you go by the definition of supply under GST law, under section 7, what it says a tax on all form of supply of goods or services. I explained you earlier this definition. It's a wide scope for world supply. And technically, when we talk about GST Act, in GST Act, under section 7 of CGST Act, they have defined supply, and supply is subject to GST. So they have include various forms of supply under the word supply as far as GST is concerned. So section 7 of CGST Act says tax on all form of supply of goods and services such as sale, transfer, barter, exchange, license, rental, lease, disposal, made or agreed to be made, GST is applicable. So friends, this is section 7 of CGST Act. This is the actual language which we need to understand. What does it mean the word supply? Because supply, what I have told you, that is one part, and apart from that, there are other transactions also which has been covered under the definition of supply. So section 7, subsection 1A talks about simple supply word which we have already studied, that is all form of supply of goods or services, both such as sale, transfer, barter, exchange, license, rental, lease, disposal made or agreed to made for consideration. So consideration word is important over here. Means when you are selling goods, you are transferring goods against some consideration, you are charging some money for that. It is supply. Further, section 7, subsection 1, subclause AA. It says supply also include the activities, transactions by a person. By a person means not an individual. By a person means company, partnership firm, club, association of persons. Those are doing some type of business other than individual, already told you, to its members. Meaning thereby is GST says where any club or association of person or a society rendering some sort of services or supplying some sort of goods to its members only, even then it is a supply and GST is applicable. So section 7, subsection 1A includes sale, transfer, barter and all, and AA says any service or supply of goods by association of person or a society or a club to its members only, even then it is supply. It covers under the definition supply and GST is applicable. So means if you are a member of any club and club is charging 5,000 rupees from you, that 5,000 rupees plus 18% GST will be applicable. So club will charge from you 5,000 plus 18% GST and club will deposit this 18% GST to the government after collecting from you. Then subsection 7, section 7, subsection 1b, import of services. When you are importing some services for consideration, whether or not in course or furtherance of business. Meaning you are in India and you need some help from outside India and you identify one person in America and you are getting some services, maybe IT based online services from that person from USA, and you are paying for that. But here, whether or not in course of business, it is important. Means whether you are getting these services from USA for the purpose of business or for some personal consumption or some for personal purposes services, then again it will be subject to GST. So means if as an individual you are getting some services from outside India for your own purpose, maybe for business purpose, otherwise you are supposed to pay tax. And this transaction, because the person who is sitting in USA, GST is not applicable to them. It is applicable to the person who is in India. So I am the person who is getting these services sitting in India. So GST will be paid by me under reverse charge mechanism. We will see what is reverse charge mechanism in following slides. But it is. So this is again part of your definition supply. So we have to be very, very careful while doing business or dealing in GST to understand what is supply. So friends, here 7A, 7AA, 7B talks about all type of transactions on which GST is applicable. And further, 7C. 7C says, it's again an important section, the activities specified in Schedule 1. Friends, there are 3 schedules under GST and all these 3 schedules are under section 7, which we are reading right now. So section 7 has 3 schedules and there are only 3 schedules under this GST Act. So what it says? It says the activities specified in Schedule 1 made or agreed to made without a consideration. Means if you have entered into any transaction where there is no consideration, you are not charging something, you are giving them free of cost, even then it is a supply under GST. Even then it is a supply. So you have to pay GST on that. There are different issues on this, how valuation of this will be done, because ultimately GST will be paid on some value. When value is 0, how GST will be paid? It is also defined in the law. We will see that. So Schedule 1 says the transactions which have been entered by business entity for nil consideration, even then GST will be paid. We will see the transactions under Schedule 1. Then 1A. It says where certain activities or transactions constitute a supply in accordance with the provisions of subsection 1, which we have already covered in previous slides, they shall be treated either as supply of goods or supply of services as referred to Schedule 2. Friends, Schedule 1, I told you that Schedule 1 is related with the transactions if you did without consideration. There are transactions listed in Schedule 1. Schedule 2 help us to identify whether a particular transaction is goods or a supply. So Schedule 2 is listed with the transactions or help us to make out that this particular transaction is a supply of goods or a supply of services, because there are many business transactions where goods and supplies are being supplied togetherly. where goods are also supplied along with the service. Catering service. If you are supplying food along with the catering services, means food is also supplied and catering service is also given, and food is a product, is a goods. Construction. Cement, aggregate, sand is also supplied along with the labor. So labor is a service, supply of cement, sand is a goods. So in such type of cases, Schedule 2 help us to know if particular type of transaction is a supply of goods or supply of services or both. Then friends, section 7, subsection 2. It says activities transactions specified in Schedule 3. Yani there is another Schedule 3. I told you that there are 3 schedules in GST. All are related with section 7. Schedule 1 talks about the transaction where there is no consideration but GST is paid. Schedule 2 help us to identify whether particular transaction is a supply of goods or supply of services. And Schedule 3 is talking about the services or the goods which are neither supply of goods nor supply of services. Means they are out of the preview of GST. There are some transactions which are neither treated as supply of goods nor treated as supply of services. We will see what these are. So, activities or transactions specified in Schedule 3 or such other activities as government may think so shall be treated neither supply of goods or nor supply of services. So, Schedule 3 is telling me the transactions which are totally out of the preview of GST. So, now coming to Schedule 1. Schedule 1 talks about matters to be treated as supply even if made without consideration. So, number 1 transaction, permanent transfer disposal of business assets. If you are transferring some business assets from one company to another company, one unit to another unit, one branch to another branch within the same company, and you are not charging anything from that because ultimately you are supplying these goods to your own company, and a company cannot sell goods to its own. But GST says it's a sale, it's a supply, so pay GST on that. So this is, we need to, wherever if you come across with such type of transactions, refer this section first and then charge GST, deposit it. 2. If there are 2 related parties, there is a definition of related party under GST. If 2 related parties are doing some transaction with each other, from unit 1, finished product is the unit, the raw material of unit 2. Both are within the same management, part of the company, same company. So, unit 1's final product is the raw material of unit 2. They are regularly sending these goods to unit 2 for further processing. So, GST says, though both the units are of the same company under the same management, but I don't know these 2 units. For me, unit 1 has supplied units to, goods to unit 2, so pay GST. Point number 3. Supply of goods by principal to its agent. In pre-GST regime, if there is a businessman having agents in different states for selling of its products, he was sending these goods on consignment basis, where title of ownership is with the principal only, and agent was just selling the products in the market and getting their commission. In this arrangement of principal and agent agreement, agent was never been a owner of the goods. Principal remains the owner of the goods. But because agent was pursuing sale, arranging orders for the principal and getting some commission out of that. But GST says no. If there is a principal agent agreement is there, principal is in Delhi, agent is in different states, in different districts, both are independent parties. So, principal has to charge GST on the goods sent to the commission agent. So, it is again come into the picture of supply. Schedule 1 we are talking about, where transactions are without consideration. And agent versus principal. If agent is sending some goods to principal, again GST will be charged. Import of services, GST will be charged, maybe without consideration. Schedule 2, it helps us to know whether the particular transaction is service or a supply of goods. So there are different examples. In case of land and building, it says any lease, tenancy, easement, license to occupy land is supply of service. Means if you have given land on rent, it is a service. Any lease letting out building including commercial, industrial or residential, partly or wholly, is again a supply of service. Renting of property is a supply of service only. Treatment or process, if you are doing some process on some products, maybe heating, maybe engineering, maybe painting, maybe surface finishing, it is again a service because it's a job work. Where goods are involved, it will be definitely supply of goods only. So these are few examples given in Schedule 2 which help us to understand whether particular transaction is supply of goods or supply of service. Composite supply, which includes 2-3 supplies together. There are two concepts in the GST, one is composite supply, another is mixed supply. So we have to understand both the concepts and we will study it later on. Composite supply and mixed supply, and both will be taxed accordingly if the transaction falls in the composite supply or in mixed supply category. Then Schedule 3 means these transactions are neither supply of goods nor supply of services. They are out of the purview of GST. What are these? Services by employee to its employer. So if you are in job, it is not subject to GST because it is employer-employee relationship and you are under contract with the employer for a service in the company. So it is not subject to GST. You are not supposed to charge GST to the employer. Services by the court tribunals. So courts performing its work for litigation purposes, and if they are, it's sort of service only because they are hearing both the parties under dispute and they are giving their orders accordingly based on the facts of the case. These are not subject to GST. So courts, when providing services to its people, means those are coming to them with appeal, they will not charge GST. Similarly, services of member of parliament, member of state assemblies, municipalities, panchayat, these are not services, these are not supply of goods under GST. So no GST will be applicable on the services of these people. Services of funeral, burial, cremation, these are also not part of GST, will not be treated as supply of services or supply of goods. Sale of land. Sale of land is also not a supply of goods or supply of service. Renting a land, leasing a land is supply of service, but sale of a land is not a supply of goods or a services. So sale of land is not subject to GST. Actionable claims, not subject to GST. That's why if you have got some insurance claim, on that insurance claim or that amount which you received from insurance company, GST is not applicable. Supply of goods from a place in non-taxable territory where GST is not applicable, means in India, if you are getting something from outside India where GST is not applicable, Indian GST I am talking about, tax will not be applicable. If goods have been sold before coming to custom house from a foreign country, it is not subject to GST. So this was about total concept of GST and the basic things which has been covered under GST. What was the flaw in the existing, means pre-GST regime, and what is improved upon under GST regime in the country, which has helped the companies, helped the customers, helped the government to increase the revenue. So if we talk about revenue collection under GST, it has gone like anything. Though some states are still lacking behind as far as GST collection is concerned, because I told you that GST is consumption based tax. So if any state has more population, to my mind, they must have more consumption of goods and services. But it will depend on their purchasing power. So the way I explained you the method of calculation of pricing under GST, definitely the purchasing power of the people will increase, because when they will save on account of cascading effects, on account of simplification of the system, on account of reduction in the traveling time of transporters, on account of simplification the rates of the taxes, definitely overall economy will boom and people will spend more and the revenue will be generated like anything. With these words, for as of now, thanks a lot.